Like the public, I feel let down, disappointed, and I am angry. Peter Mandelson should never have been appointed. This was a fundamental failure of judgment. Matthew Doyle should never have been given a peerage. This was also a failure of judgment, and out of touch and disconnected from the public mood. The fact that MPs like me are being whipped into voting against this motion is, in my view, wrong, Mr. Speaker. It has played into the terrible narrative that there is something to hide, and good, decent colleagues will be accused of being complicit in a cover-up. A number of weeks ago, at a private meeting with my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, I spoke about how, after a career of working with victims, that I could not even begin to express how much it hurts me when people are screaming at me in the street that I am a member of the Pedo Protectors Party. I also said that prior to this scandal, people criticised the government's policies and at times lack of political narrative. But to me, they are now questioning the government's moral compass. Privilege motions, ISC and investigations, committee hearings and process don't come up on the doorstep. What does come up time and time again is a general feeling that there is something just not right, that politicians are failing to deliver on their promises. Trust has gone and it's been replaced by anger, and the already fragile fabric of our democracy is eroding further every day this continues. So I can't understand, Mr. Speaker, why the Prime Minister doesn't refer himself to the committee with a clear statement that he is doing so to clear his name. One quick session of the committee could surely see this matter concluded. Instead, it will now drag on and dominate every headline and interview. It will overshadow and undermine every good policy we make and continue to drag every single one of us down. That any Prime Minister misled the House or not is not a matter for the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, nor is it a matter for the Intelligence and Security Committee. It is a matter for privileges. That's why such a committee exists. It may be that opposition parties are using this motion today to box Labour MPs in, but I'm not angry about that. That's politics. Some of us here would do the same. Voting against this motion, but I want to listen carefully to the rest of this debate because, like everyone, when I came to this House, I wanted to do the right thing, and I hope I continue to do that for however long I have left in this place.
What we just witnessed in this Labour MP's intervention is not a routine parliamentary disagreement. It is a rare internal rupture being spoken out loud inside the chamber, and the tone of it signals something far more serious than a simple policy objection. From the very first sentence, the emotional weight is undeniable. This is not a carefully filtered political statement designed for safe reporting. It is frustration breaking through formal discipline, and once that happens inside Parliament, it immediately shifts the meaning of everything that follows. The opening admission of anger is what sets the entire direction. In politics, especially inside a controlled party environment, MPs are expected to frame criticism through procedure, policy language, or collective responsibility. But here, the language is personal, direct, and emotionally charged. That matters because it signals that this is not just disagreement with a single decision. It is a broader loss of confidence in how decisions are being made in the first place. When an elected representative publicly says they feel let down and angry, it reflects a breakdown in internal trust that usually remains hidden behind closed doors. As the speech continues, it becomes increasingly clear that the core issue is not isolated appointments or individual mistakes. Those are used as entry points, but the real argument is about judgment at the highest level of leadership. By directly stating that certain appointments should never have happened, the MP is not just criticizing outcomes. They are questioning the decision-making framework that allowed those outcomes in the first place. This is where political criticism becomes structurally significant, because it implies a pattern rather than a one-off error. The next escalation comes when the MP describes the government as disconnected from public mood. This is a familiar political accusation, but in this context, it carries extra weight because it is tied directly to internal enforcement mechanisms like whipped voting. That detail transforms the argument. It is no longer simply the government is wrong, but rather the government is enforcing unity even when internal members disagree. That creates a tension between loyalty and conscience, which is one of the most sensitive fault lines in parliamentary systems. Then the speech moves into one of its most politically dangerous areas, public perception and moral legitimacy. When the MP references being confronted by citizens and accused in extreme moral terms, it highlights something that goes beyond policy failure. It suggests reputational collapse at the street level, where political arguments no longer matter and emotional judgment takes over. Whether or not every detail is universally experienced, the significance lies in the perception being described, that trust has eroded to the point where political identity itself is being questioned in moral language. At this stage, the speech transitions from internal party criticism into systemic warning. The argument expands beyond individuals and focuses on the condition of democracy itself. Trust is described as replaced by anger, and institutions are framed as increasingly fragile. This is a classic escalation technique in political rhetoric, moving from specific grievances to structural consequences. It reframes the issue from what the government did wrong to what is happening to the system as a result. The most important turning point comes when the MP questions why leadership does not voluntarily submit to investigation to clear their name. This is not just a procedural suggestion, it is a challenge to political instinct. It introduces a logic of transparency versus delay. In modern political communication, delay is often interpreted as avoidance, and avoidance amplifies suspicion. So the argument being made here is strategically powerful. Even if the leadership is confident in its position, refusal to act quickly allows narrative damage to grow uncontrollably. What makes this even more impactful is the separation between formal process and public sentiment. The MP explicitly suggests that committee structures, procedural motions, and internal mechanisms do not register with ordinary citizens. Instead, what registers is instinct, perception, and a general feeling that something is wrong. This is politically significant because it highlights a gap between institutional politics and public interpretation. When that gap widens, trust does not just weaken, it begins to collapse entirely. Despite all of this, the speech does not position the MP as fully aligned with opposition tactics. There is a conscious acknowledgement of political reality, that motions are used strategically, that parties operate under pressure, and that political maneuvering is expected. But what makes this moment stand out is that even with that understanding, the MP still refuses to comply fully with party direction. That is where the internal contradiction becomes most visible. Awareness of political necessity versus refusal to ignore personal judgment.